Hi friends, welcome to or welcome back to the channel Jane Reads. My name is Jeanette and today I have another book recommendation video for you, and this one is based on how the title looks on the book cover. So for my Christian fiction bingo for 2026, the second prompt for the month of July is cursive title. So that means the title of the book needs to be written in cursive font. What is cursive font? It is a script font where each letter connects either to the letter before or the letter after. So once I get into some samples, you will understand if you aren't familiar with cursive font. Okay. I have a list of books I've made to remind me these are ones I want to talk about for sure. Then I pulled a bunch of books, you can't see the stack over here, off my bookshelves. So, I mean, you can see the big gap there. That's because of this stack here. So if you know what sits there, you might know what books I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to tell you briefly about the book, the star rating I gave them, because inside every book that I've read, it tells me what my star rating is. And then at the very end, I will go through the possibilities that are on my list that I might read to fulfill this prompt. So we're going to go alphabetically because that's the way I pulled them off. So book number 1 is Possibly Penelope by Pepper Basham. This is book 2 in the Skyamar series. And it is recommended that you read book 1 first. It is a contemporary romance, by the way. In this one, you are following Penelope, who is a cousin of Izzy from book 1. She has traveled to Skymar to take an internship at this theater company, and she is working there. There is romance involved, but there's also a bit of mystery involved. Somebody has it out for the theater company and what is going on. I really enjoyed this book. Penelope was just as positive as the title says and really approached life in a happy way. And I really enjoyed it. This was a 5-star read for me and I highly recommend it. It is best to pick up after book 1 because you get to know a little bit more of the family dynamics because you really meet them in book 1. But book 1 I struggled more with than this book, mainly because book 1 is epistolary for the first half to 3/4 of the book, and a lot of the exchanges they're talking about books and stuff that I wasn't familiar with, whereas this one she's into musicals and theater and was referencing things that I kind of could relate to or at least knew of. And I'm talking about this book because book 1 is not a fully cursive title. Authentically is in cursive, but the word Izzy is not, or the name Izzy is not. So whereas this, both words are, the title is fully cursive. Okay, then we have a romantic suspense series also by Terri Blackstock. And that series is the If I Run series. So book 1 is If I Run, book 2 is If I Found, and book 3 is If I Live. And each book is a cursive title. In book 1, we meet Casey, who has discovered her best friend dead, and then she goes on the run because she's worried that the police are going to frame her. The family hires a private investigator to try to find Casey. As the books, because each book picks up immediately after the one previous, as the books get further, we get to know more, like, is what Casey thought really happening, or was she just paranoid? And then the PI, Dylan, needs to figure out, is Casey innocent or is she guilty, and what? Like, maybe the cops have it out for her, or maybe she's just paranoid. I really enjoyed following this, and because while Casey is on the run, she gets involved with other mysteries that she kind of stumbles upon when she goes to the next town, and then she has to decide whether she's going to get involved or not, even though it might threaten her running away and trying to hide. I really, really enjoyed this, and I believe each book was 5 stars. I'm just double checking that. Yes. And I've read If I Run 3 times, and I've read the other 2 twice, and they were 5 stars of both read-throughs through. Then I have a historical fiction, and that is For Such a Time by Kate Breslin. This is a World War II story. We are following a Jewish woman who has changed her name to Stella, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Yes. She's changed her name to Stella, kind of to escape the German happenings on Jewish. She ends up working for a German, and during her position, she is trying to save her people. And then we just follow that over the time. Like, can she make a difference in her position for her people? Or will they discover that she has another identity? And there was really some heart-wrenching stuff happening, because we find out what's happening to the Jews. There is another storyline happening, like another perspective that really is in the trenches of what the Jews are going through and being sent to Auschwitz. I felt for Stella and what she's seeing happening to people, and really what the Jews were going through. And I really liked the German officer. And once he realizes, how does he deal with that, right? Once he finds out Stella's background, how does he deal with it? I really enjoyed the Jewish part of this story, and just following these characters and getting to know them, and the strength of them to handle what they were being dealt. What I did not like about the story was the romance. I could have done without the romance. If it was just the historical story, I would have been fine with it. I gave this book 4 stars in the end, though, because it's a total character-driven story, and I was invested in the characters. Okay, then we have Yours Truly Thomas by Rachel Fordham, another historical romance. And we are following Penny, who works for the Dead Letter Office in Washington, D.C. She finds a letter that she is trying to find the recipient of. When she can't find the recipient, she's looking for the initial writer of the letter. She ends up traveling to Iowa, and she is accepted into this community and makes friends. She does eventually meet the author of this letter, and then she starts developing feelings for that person. But then she feels like, I can't, because this was a love letter. I've got to find out who he was writing to and get the letter to the proper person. I really enjoyed that story. I love that there are letters in this. We see it. We really kind of get to know, because it's more than just the one letter. And I loved the community aspect of it. This was a 5-star read for me. Next book is a women's fiction that is The Joy of Falling by Lindsay Harrel. So this is about 2 women who have lost their husbands in a scuba diving accident. They find out that their husbands have signed up for a marathon to take place in New Zealand. They are American. And they travel to New Zealand to train for this marathon because they've decided to take their husband's place in it. One of the women have 3 children. So they're living as a family, basically, the 2 women and the 3 kids, and trying to kind of find peace with their husband's death and run this marathon. And we're just following the emotions through it and dealing with grief and them like kind of moving on, like what is next for them? Can they see what's next for them? I was really invested in this, and I gave it 4 stars when I read it initially, and that was back in September of 2021. Now, this book is one of my 16 rereads I want to get to this year. I've not reread it yet, so this is a possibility for me. Then I have a dual timeline, and that is I'll Be Seeing You by Robin Lee Hatcher. This takes place in the 1940s and 2022. So we are following, in the 22 timeline, we are following this young college student who has to write a paper for a class. She goes to her great-grandmother and starts interviewing her great-grandmother about her time in the 1940s. And so the grandmother starts telling the story of how her and her sister fell for the same guy and kind of how it affected their relationship. Then she's also trying to warn her great-granddaughter off of this guy that she's seeing. And the great-granddaughter can't see anything wrong with this guy. And so we're following that through. I loved hearing about the historical time and like forgiveness, dealing with past mistakes, like overcoming past mistakes, and the character-driven story. Again, very much so. And I also liked the present-day timeline in 2022 and how the character really grows from who she is at the beginning to the end. She has learned from her mistakes in that short little time, whereas the great-grandmother, it took a number of years for her to realize. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars when I read it. Yes, I said I was sucked in. The characters felt raw and human. Highly recommend. Shall I attack this big stack now? Because we're in the H's? Okay. Okay, so we have the Hope Harbor series by Irene Hannon. I don't know how well you can tell, but every title has a script font title. So, if you have never started this series, you could start with book 1, Hope Harbor. This is a contemporary romance series set in the town of Hope Harbor, Oregon. Each book introduces you to 2 new main characters. And then there are side characters that are in every single book in the series. We have Father Murphy, who is a Catholic priest. We have Reverend Baker, who is the pastor at the other church. What's it called? I can't think of the name of the church. And then we have Charlie, the taco truck maker. All 3 of these characters make appearances and have involvement in the main characters' lives in the book. Now, this is a series you do not need to read in order to understand and comprehend the main story, because each story is its own story, completely wrapped up. Later in the series, we'll spoil some of the relationships from earlier books in the series, because now those people have possibly become background characters within the town if they've stayed in town. So you will find out if they've married, if they've had a kid, everything. So each time I read the next book in the series, it's like I'm coming back to the small town that I've gotten to know and kind of reconnecting with people I've known. So that is why I do recommend reading in order. But as I said, it is a 12-book series. You do not have to read it in order. If there is a particular book that stands out to you that you're really interested in, and it's later in the series, pick it up, give it a try. And if you want to revisit from the beginning after that book, go right ahead. Okay, so book 1 is Hope Harbor. This one, we are following Tracy, who never wanted to leave Hope Harbor on her 3-generation cranberry farm where she grew up. But life and love might have altered her plan. Then we have Michael, who is a visitor from Chicago. And how do these 2 connect? What happened? Then we have book 2 is Sea Rose Lane, which features an attorney, Eric, who returns home to Hope Harbor after he has been laid off from his job. And the female is BJ, who is a construction worker. Book 3 is Sandpiper Cove, which follows the local police chief and an ex-con. Book 4 is Pelican Point, which it features a doctor who inherits a crumbling lighthouse. And what happens with that lighthouse? And then there is a female involved. Obviously, it's a romance series. Now, I should say before I go any further, there is usually 2 storylines going on throughout the book. We have the main characters, but then there's a secondary storyline that may affect the main characters or may be completely separate, or kind of cross a little bit. But again, they're also new. So I'm telling you about one storyline, but I'm not telling you about the other storyline. Okay, what number are we on? Book number 5 is Driftwood Bay. This one features Jeanette, it's spelled wrong though, who owns the lavender farm? Yes. Who runs her lavender farm and tea room. And then we have Dr. Logan, who is raising his niece. I think. I'm pretty sure it's his niece. And then book 6 is Starfish Pier, which features an ex-Delta Force operator, Steven, and a first grade teacher. Then we have Blackberry Beach, which is book 7. I've already lost numbers. The one thing about the series is they don't have numbers on the spines. That kind of bugs me a bit, but that recommends that you could read it out of order. So we have her lifelong dream is in sight, but does a new and better future await her in Hope Harbor? So we have Catherine, who likes to make chocolate, and we have the coffee shop owner. Then book number 8 is Sea Glass Cottage, which features, it says, when painful paths collide, can love overcome heartache and triumph despite the odds. So Jack wants nothing to do with the woman who betrayed him. He's built a new life. And there's no room for Christy in it. What's going to happen? Book number 9. Yeah. I messed up on the numbers again. But it is book number 9 is Windswept Way, which is an interior decorator, Ashley. I think that's what she is. And a landscaper, Jonathan. Book number 10 is Sandcastle Inn, which is a barista. Nope. That's the next one. It says, family is complicated, but true love doesn't have to be. Vienna never intended to return for more than a passing visit to Hope Harbor and all the bad memories she left behind. But when your career tanks, home is where you go to nurse your wounds and chart a new course. Only temporary, of course, because as much as she loves her quirky mom, anything more than a short stay would drive them both crazy. Book number 11, Sunrise Reef. This one features the barista Bren and a CPA Noah. And this one has been my favorite of the series. And then book number 12 is Harbor Point. This one we're following a dancer, a ballerina, who has returned to Hope Harbor temporarily after her sister gets injured, and a single father whose daughter starts getting interested in ballet. This one was a 4-star read for me. So majority of them have been 4-star reads for me. This is definitely my favorite of the series, Sunrise Reef. So far, it's the only one that has been a full 5 stars. But other ones have been like 4.5, very close. But yeah, I highly recommend giving this series a try. Okay, then more contemporary romance. We have the Bradford Sisters series by Becky Wade. So this follows 3 sisters as per the name Bradford Sisters. It is a 3 full-length book series, and then there are 2 novellas. I only own 1 novella. I only own the prequel novella. And that is Then Came You, which is told in epistolary style, and it follows the dad. And we find out how he ends up with 3 daughters. Then book 1 is True to You, which follows Nora, the middle daughter, who is very much into research, very bookish, and runs the historical village. And then she gets hired to help find some family genealogy. Then we have book 2, which is Falling for You, which follows Willow, the oldest sister, who is a model, and she has taken a sabbatical to come and run her parents' B&B while they're away for a couple months. And she also gets pulled into a bit of a mystery with somebody else and trying to find out some answers. Then we have book 3, Sweet on You, which follows the youngest sister, Britt, who is a chocolate maker and runs a chocolate shop with her best friend at the historical village that Nora runs. And in this one, we have Can You Fall for Your Best Friend? That's mainly, I don't think there's a bit of a mystery in that. Well, no, there is a bit of a mystery going on too, because they're also trying to find some answers about somebody's past. So that is the Bradford Sisters. Then another Becky Wade series that I only own the first book, but again, the full series meets this criteria. It is another contemporary romance, and that is the Porter family series. So book 1 is Undeniably Yours, where we meet Meg Cole and Bo Porter. Bo is a horse farm trainer and manager, and Meg has inherited the horse farm from her father when he passed away, and she wants to shut down the horse farm. And Bo asked her for 6 months to prove that it's worth keeping the horse farm. So we have somebody who is very wealthy, somebody who comes from the middle class, and can they find common ground, and what's going to happen? Then book 2 is Meant to Be Mine, which follows Ty Porter, who we have met in book 1. So then book 3 is A Love Like Ours, which follows Jake Porter. And then book 4 is Her One and Only, which follows Drew Porter, which is this youngest sister of the 3 Porter brothers. I really enjoyed this series as well, and book 2, Meant to Be Mine, is actually one of my 16 to reread this year, so this is the one I'm really hoping to read for the month of July. What month am I doing? Okay, some other possibilities for me to read in the month of July. So there's a novella, Love in the Details by Becky Wade. I am trying to read Becky Wade to 0, so I need to read this one. And it says, she left him to save his future, but they've never gotten over each other. When Josh returns to his hometown of Martinsburg, Texas to help his best friend get married, he didn't intend to run into church wedding coordinator and ex-girlfriend Holly. He can't help but pine after the girl he never got over. Holly broke up with Josh years ago in an attempt to ensure his future success, but she loved him then and still loves him now. What's gonna happen? Okay, another possibility for me is The Planter's Daughter by Michelle Shocklee. This is Michelle's debut book. Again, I'm trying to read Michelle to 0, so this is a possibility for me. It is book 1 of The Women of Rose Hill. It is another historical fiction, and it says, Adela knows her father has plans for her future, but she longs for the freedom to forget her own destiny. When the son of Luther Ellis, longtime friend, arrives on the plantation to work as the new overseer, Adela can't help but fall for his charm and captivating hazel eyes. But a surprising betrothal to an older man, followed by a devastating revelation, forces Adela to choose the path that will either save her family's future or endanger the lives of the people most dear to her. Another possibility is Sidelined by Love by Liz Johnson. This is a contemporary romance, and it is the only Liz Johnson book I have left to read her to zero. So this is a very high possibility, because then one book I could be done with her. Not done with her, but I can say I've read her to zero. And it says, Zoe Pebbles, America's sweetheart or a drama queen. The tabloids have always been kind to me until an on-set scandal leaves me single, unemployable, and looking for a place to hide. My only option is staying with my grandma in Colorado Springs, but my dad, owner of the local professional football team, makes it clear that he doesn't want my personal brand of drama in his locker room. No problem. I'm not interested in dating anyone in the public eye ever again. But I do need quarterback Grant's help preparing for an audition that will be my last if I can't land the role. As I spend time with my father's quarterback, I discover there's a lot more to him than a rocket arm and a ridiculously handsome face. What? Okay, and then the last two are Along a Storied Trail by Anne H. Gabhart. This is a historical fiction. Kentucky pack horse librarian doesn't mind the rough trails and the long hours as she serves her Appalachian Mountain community during the Great Depression. Yet she longs to find love like the heroines in the books she loves. When a charming writer comes to town, she thinks she might have found it, or is the perfect man actually closer than she thinks? Then the last one is Stories That Bind Us by Suzie Finkbeiner. This, I think, is another historical fiction, and it says, rediscover the power of story to open the doors of our hearts. Betty never expected to be a widow at 40. With so much life still in front of her, she tries to figure out what's next, never imagining what God had in mind. So that is all the books I have with a cursive title. Please tell me if you plan on participating in the yearly reading challenge and fulfilling this prompt. I would love to know what book you plan on reading. And if you have nothing to say, just leave a pen emoji in the comments to kind of indicate writing as if you're writing in cursive. And I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. And I would love it if you would like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And stay tuned for future videos. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.